from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me, Harish. He is the head of AI at Good Day Software. Uh, Usually, Harish, the way I like to do it, I don't like to steal from my guest spotlight, so I keep it to them to introduce themselves. So tell us a little more about you, your background, your journey, and what you're currently up to. But just as a hint to my audience, we're gonna talk, about something I didn't cover it much, honestly. It's about, the power of AI and technology in fashion, in retail, right? And how this can maybe open a discussion with Harish today regarding that aspect. Of course, we're gonna talk about AI and how Harish he looks, to the industry. Without further ado, Harish, I will keep the floor to you. So tell us about yourself.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Harish. I have always been in technology sector, working on bunch of data related products. Just in terms of my growth or career, it started at Johns Hopkins. I went to Johns Hopkins for cybersecurity. And when I wanted to look for a job, I realized I always like building products. So I ended up not going into this consultancy part of the security, rather ended up joining Bloomberg as the in the security engineering team. That led me to join MongoDB as one of their early cloud security hire. And it
Hmm.
has been a great ride. That company expanded very quickly. We got a lot of users. That means you get to learn how to build a product that's very scalable. And I think around like 4 or 5 years mark, I felt like MongoDB has also grown and I loved working in much smaller companies. And I
Hmm.
also felt like I've seen like retail being one of the biggest consumer of MongoDB while I was on
Yes.
call and everything. That led me to be just curious around what that is. And I kind of like went to a store called ONS in New York, sat in their back office, literally just like saw how they operate, sat in their meetings. What stood out to me is that whether it's retail or any e-com or pretty much any business, your back office operation is still
Hmm.
the data and workflow problem. Those are the major two challenges for any business to run effectively, especially e-com businesses. That led me to start Flair as their CTO. 2 years we were building Flair, and at some point, yeah, like most startups, we were at this inflection point where we need to decide whether to keep going with it, do a more fundraise, or it's kind of like we are not where we need to be. And that kind of led me to join Good Day Software as their AI head of AI, purely because now I get to concentrate more on the fancy new AI part of like how things works, how we can help customers in retail industry while not having to worry about the business aspect of it. In the sense,
Great.
like my CEO and CPO and like all those people are really good. They would run with it.
Yeah, yeah. That's a fascinating journey, Harish. Really, um, and I'm sure you gained a lot of insights. Now, you kind of mentioned it like, but very quickly. But I'm curious, and I know like. When I was researching it, probably I saw it on your LinkedIn or somewhere else. You mentioned like you weren't a fashion person or retail business person by training, yet you identified these pains that you just mentioned. So tell me how your previous experience in data security engineering help you to spot this opportunity that you can come and fix this domain.
Yeah. So, I mean, in all those podcasts, I wouldn't have spoke much about the technical aspects. I'm kind of like covering the technical aspect of where it came from. So I was in this store, right? And I was operating and I was also speaking to the bunch of like fashion wear brand who are like female fashion wear brands because obviously there are more female fashion wear brands than men. men's out there, there are few things that stood out to me at that point. One, you like t-shirts are color and size. If you are seeing bralette, it would end up being like a up size, torso length, color, and regular sizes, four different parameters. And when people are in the back office and they're talking about data and how they are like seeing sales, how they're seeing their purchase orders, it ends up being like I'm seeing color and barcodes. And how the existing software works, especially in the SMB market, is that you have these ERP which are very rigid. When you talk about shut, they say option one, red, option two is size. And then if you are talking about some other properties called option three, four, five. And then when you want to run these reports, people take the data out of their ERP and they were trying to strap in extra properties like materials or locations or things, run an ETL pipeline, feed it to some kind of like a data lake, and then they were running reports. Coming from MongoDB background, for me, it's like why I have these multi-step process exist. People who create the products know the extra property they needed. So it should be a very unstructured ways where when you create the product, you can say this is a t-shirt, this is a cotton t-shirt, or whatever you want, and then run the report directly. I saw this as an extension of MongoDB where text and numbers were the primitives when we were building the serverless architecture. Whereas in fashion or e-com, the primitives they use is called color, which is a combination of Pantone and bunch of different properties. So how can I extend the basic MongoDB functionality with all these custom business data types and then let users customize their ERP from the get-go rather than having to have like engineer customize it, rather than having to have a separate software engineer running an ETL pipeline to be able to generate a report where they can see these extra properties combined with your sales order.
That's, I like this, it's exactly, how I love usually people who works in technology to be thinking. It's about, bridging the business strategy and domain with how we can, get that from technology perspective, right? Um, I know one of the things that, if you want to little bit dig into the technology itself. So one of the themes I know you've spoken about is data integrity and messy workflows. Can you little bit, tell us about this? Like I know, for example, you said spreadsheets secretly killing fashion brands profitability. Like unpack this
Yes.
to me. Like how big is the problem, and why do you think some brands they underestimate that?
So at the beginning, people don't have money. E-com business itself is really brutal. The more you learn about the business, the margins are low. So every expense matters. So people don't want to put money investing in like in bigger software. And to be fair to them, NetSuites of the world cost you 100, $200,000 a year to just implement. So it is pretty expensive. So people fall back to spreadsheet. Now the challenge becomes how to coordinate between different teams, how to keep different spreadsheet updated, how to know what is happening even within your business, right? An example I can take is a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
Manufacturing typically takes around 6 months to place an order, for it to get shipped, for it to like come to your warehouse. And people book models for photo shoots so that when the t-shirts or anything arise, you can take the photo shoot, put it in the website, start marketing. But there are also delays that happens, whether it's a tariff, whether it's a war, it doesn't matter. And if your purchase order manager, who is solely responsible for procurement, do not communicate to your marketing team that there is a delay, they would have booked the models, we are paying for the models, but the item hasn't arrived. If that it's just a small one use case of example. Now, if you think about like various departments that happens behind the scenes to run a company and they don't interact with each other, or they have spreadsheets with same data replicated in 10 different places that's not getting updated. Now you are losing money. So it's a matter of
Mm-hmm.
lost revenue than just like, oh, I forgot to tell someone, right? And especially, like I said, e-com industry is brutal it's cash flow brutal industry. And you overpay for things, you are out of business in 3 months.
Right. Right.
And I can't solely say people don't think about it, right? The challenge here is the fact that Softwares don't make it easy for them to enter those data. So existing softwares don't make it
Mm,
easy for them to they don't feel empowered with the existing software, that they feel that it's a pain to go and enter in data. Example for me is that packing list, which comes from the factory, has 100 rows. And no, very ERPs don't make it easy to enter those 100 rows. You literally have to key in, and it's a boring work. So they want to wait until factory confirms this is the data that's coming in before they enter the data into an ERP. At the time, you are losing the change set, you are losing the changes that comes out evolution of the ERP, like negotiating cost, or how we negotiated the life cycle of the purchase order. Everything is lost. That's
mm-hmm.
purely because the ERP was not making it easy for them to enter the data. And that's where I feel like making the workflow automation so easy would help people be in the software, happy to use the software, and get most out of the software.
Right. Uh, I love this in-depth understanding of the problem, Harish, and how you're tackling it, and of course, like understanding the pain, and like I tell people usually in any domain, like if we understand the the I would say the negative outcomes of doing nothing, or like the cost of doing nothing, like this is when really our mindset will start to flip, and we start, oh, like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Now, when I go to Good Day Software website, I see, the first thing that I'm seeing on my screen is saying the first AI powered, and then ERP is like striped out, retail OS, right? Built for brands. Now, my curiosity as a technologist back in the day is how you define the role of AI in this context, right? And why the ERP is striped out.
The one, what is ERP? Just to give a highlight of people who do not know, is that it lives in the heart of the business. So
Mhm.
most business users like 30, 40 plus softwares sometimes just to run it. Example would be like they use something called Shopify for your websites for product and selling. That is something called PLM, which is like production lifecycle management, where designers can do different things. You can go back and forth about it. And people use a different software called New Order or different things for wholesale. So what ERP does is bring all these platforms together. And the reason why I think of it as OS is because at the end of the day, how you bring these things together changes with AI. Imagine what I was talking about. It takes $100,000, $200,000 to implement ERP. Why it takes that much money? Because previously it used to be REST API. You need to hire engineers who specifically implement integrations with ERP and every software you use. But the world has changed. MCPs and all those things make it so easy to bring together these software. And that's why it kind of like comes to that type of retail OS versus an ERP. End of the term doesn't matter. What matters is that one, you communicate with your factory through email and everything happens in email. And an ERP can just grab the details from email and put it in the system. You can use hundreds of software. We don't care. We will make sure integration is so seamless that everything goes through ERP. Your core data lives in ERP. You can get your snapshot of your business. When is new items coming in? How much I am selling? How to plan the new season or new year? What to purchase? Good Day as ERP would act as the source of truth.
Right. Now, uh going into the AI part also, Harish, with you. Like, what kind of, so for me, when someone tells me I have something AI in the solution, like, is it like the one that, it's just like the chat based one, the conservative one, generative AI, or like agent based, like, I'm just trying to understand the context of the AI here.
Oh, that's a perfect question. Some of them I'm going to pitch are in the product, some of them is a vision, but you are
Mhm.
pretty much spot on, right? one of the things that stood out to me, especially like with Good Day when I was looking at it as well, is like AI is not just a chatbot. And for a long time, people always had AI as a chatbot, which is the easier thing to build. I'm a database, go and grab and answer the question for my customers, which has always been like the traditional one. But when it comes to an operating system or these back office operation, agents play a huge role. So this is a combination of both agentic and kind of like some of them are just enablement of small things. Let me give an example of both the worlds, right? One, I talked about packing list, which has 100 lines of data, comes from a factory, and it has like so many different SKUs, different insights that people are keying into the ERP. Now with AI, upload the PDF that you get from factories, we will pass it, we will pre-fill the values inside your, we call it packing list. It's basically a CSV that gets converted to a table, and AI
Mm-hmm.
can do it rather than like you keying in like 1,000 lines or 100 lines. You just verify it. And that's not an agent as in like it's not working on its own, but it's also not a chatbot. It just makes your life easy. Imagine previously it took each one 2 hours to key in these data. Now it's a matter of 10 minutes. You upload, everything gets pre-filled. You have 10 minutes to just be like, is my invoice values matches the one that AA passed? If not, correct it and done. So those type of things is to help user be more efficient. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other part is agentic flow itself. If you get an email, all these POs comes in an attachment, right? So previously you look at the email, you need to pass, download the attachment, and then you go to your ERP and do stuff. Now with AI, doing those integrations, workflow automations becomes so easy. So you can set up saying that, hey, if I receive a email from my vendor, can AI look and flag if it's a purchase order, if it's a sales order? And if it's a purchase or sales order, can AI automatically put that into an ERP so that when I log into the ERP, I just verify, oh, I got an email. It looks like a purchase order. This is the data that needs to get into my system. And done. And those are agentic flows. Other
Mm-hmm.
agentic flows includes simple things like, I mean, it's not simple. People spend hours every day that, hey, my warehouse says I have 30 handbags, but my e-com site has only 20 handbags. Where is the discrepancies? Where am I losing the count? Sometimes it would be like, oh, you got 10 new handbags from your factory that the warehouse hasn't counted or it hasn't. But people spend so much time on it. Now agent can do it. Agent can grab your inventory data from different places, compare it and flag it so that you don't spend hours trying to reconcile what is happening. So those ends up being an agentic flow.
Got you, got you. No, this is very, very informative, I would say, and exactly what I was thinking about. Harish, now I might, I'm trying to position this question, and feel free to ask me if it's not clear.
Yeah.
It's kind not directly related to the tech itself, right? But it's related to what you're doing currently. So, and of course, given your engineering background, you work with MongoDB also, like on a, which is the database company. So now, when these brands come, right? Um, so do you think the data and the workflow would be able also to let me ask the question in a different way. So I think because this is just popped in my head, I'm trying to get my thoughts together now. There are different markets. So there's the US market, and North America market, like Europe, Asia, and so on. So let's say I'm now here in Dubai, right? And I want to leverage known data, which is might be like available data from like maybe statistics perspective, what works, flow work, and so on, to develop a new brand in, let's say, in the emerging markets, right? Like, do you think the data that usually maybe a model would have, or maybe like some workflow maturity that would have, can be localized for me, when I'm trying to find something that fits me? So if I bring, for example, a data engineer as a new brand entrepreneur, so what I'm trying to understand, how much I would be able to leverage some of the models probably in that domain
So
for me to start. If I,
it
I
works
hope
the same.
I hope
Yeah,
I hope
I
it
get
was
it.
clear. Yeah.
Yes. So most of the time, I can talk from e-com industry perspective. It's all the same, but there are nuanced differences, which is pretty much
Yes.
like dollar versus a rupees versus a pound, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that needs to get normalized. There are a few changes that would come in because so that like as you expand your business, your profit margins are calculated correctly. Rupee conversions or dollar conversions, pound conversions are somewhat like configured and set it in a way so that you get a clear view on how much is your profit. So there are
Mm-hmm.
obviously nuances in that, but overall operation wise, it's pretty much the same. So the software can be used across the countries, but tend to you tend to start with one market, not because ERP can't work across different places or the data modeling and the AI training won't work across the places, but the software people use vary. An
Mm-hmm.
example is like European e-com that are like big commerce and other stuff who are bigger, and you want ERP to integrate with it and grab data. Whereas in US, Shopify is the biggest player when it comes to e-com front end. So ERPs
Right.
often have to integrate with that. So when you think about expanding market, yes, there are a lot of like pieces around the core model, core AI training that changes based on the country you are going to be in. But the core model, core program that you create is going to be the same. Another example for me is accounting, right? Like the accounting piece, which is in for US customers that you are building, might not exactly apply to other countries because it becomes country specific
Hmm.
operations. But business itself, we don't think differently, right? I need to know the operating. It's funny that one of the terms people use here is like operational accounting versus business, like countries accounting. Operational accounting is like something you want to be more close to real. You don't care about the 1 cent and 2 cents that's missing because you just want the bigger one. Whereas real one has like more nuances that's
Right.
associated with it. Real one speaks country specific thing, operational accounting, operational way of looking at your business, training is common.
Got it. No, exactly. And thank you for being able to understand, because I'm trying to explain it also from for like in layman terms, so maybe people who aren't familiar. So, but you helped me, and thank you, Harish, for this. Now, if I want to look at, again, talking from the AI perspective, so we're seeing more and more, and this is one of the things that using AI myself, but a signal that I spotted and I expected it, is like the rise of this class of technology, which is like AI, verticalized AI. So an AI which is like exactly for a specific vertical. Moving forward, Harish, from your experience, do you think like we're gonna see more and more? Now, for example, today we're discussing this in the fashion retail perspective. Are we expecting to see like more rise of this specialized AI in specific vertical? And in this case, what would be the moat in your experience? Like how we can, as founders and entrepreneurs, claim like, hey, like we are better than others. So what's your take on this?
Candidly, I feel no one knows where all this is going to go
Right.
because the answer I would have given a year back is so different from the answer I am going to give right now. Uh, things change very quickly, so I'm going to come with an asterisk saying that hey, if you're listening this 6 months from now, I would be giving a different answer. Uh, the way I think about it is one, the horizontal aspect. I feel like more and more OpenAI and like Anthropic of the world are trying to take over. Example, when I talk about workflow automation, 6 months back, a year back, the way I thought about it is that I need to have a builder. Like Salesforce has a builder for CRM. Everyone has it. So I need to come up with my own builder for an ERP where you drag and drop, build your workflows. And some of them are automated, some of them might be a small piece of code that runs. And that's how AI needs to bring workflow together. But if you ask me now, Agent Kit, Innatence of the world has done so much automations. I only care about doing the vertical aspect which you are talking about, where I know the data I have, I know the data I have collected from my customers. How can I make it more useful to people? Example is inventory movement. Tracking when an inventory comes to your warehouse, when it goes to a customer, and if someone does returns, when it comes back, what value is coming back. All those are really hard data to collect. And ChatGPT and Anthropics of the world don't have those data
Right.
in the exact way that's needed, and we collect those data. And we can make sure we can reuse the models available publicly from these like big LLMs, and then combine that with the data, train that with the data to help people understand or make sense out of the data, right? For example, if you are hiring a new inventory manager, previously you need to train them where to go and look for data, what data to look for, how to make sense of your business. Now, if you're hiring a new inventory manager, you can just be like, hey, go and ask this chatbot about our previous decisions, what has been done, where inventory is, and chatbot would give you the answers.
Right.
That gives the AI more of like, I know this cannot be taken over by the trillion-dollar companies out there because it's very unique to my industry. I know how to train this, and I also own the data, not just the training model of it.
This is fantastic. And by the way, just Hari, I'm not sure if you have seen like how I'm asking you. I didn't tell you, for example, tell me in 2 years, 5 years. Since I'm not sure if this is a luck or not, but I started the podcast about the same time when ChatGPT came out to the world. Like it was like only 2 months, maybe. And I spotted like also something that okay, things are gonna change very fast, so I don't have to ask this question. I try to see like maybe directions, maybe I would say like, hey, what people will hype about. But to your point about the data, and I'm asking you again because of your background. Now, one of the biggest uh, topics that people talk when we discuss AI is about training data. Now, I think and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, in your domain is not hard. Like you will, like there is no scarcity of data always to come in to train the model, right? Because in some other domains, what I've heard from people, like yeah, like they're gonna run out of the data, and what they have to do is just to go and find like synthesized data which can be used actually to train the model. Like, can you like just clarify this?
Yes, in this case, data are real. It's not synthesized. You don't have to extrapolate things. I know if you're in like a biotech or something, often it's like, hey, we don't have a lot of data. We can use AI to extrapolate and then like run some models. That's not the case. These are real data that's coming from a real world physical operations.
And we will not get out of data any soon because people are always doing transactions, right?
Yes, I think we won't get out of data very soon. What I am noticing with e-com industry, which I'm curious to see how things evolve, is where the data comes from, right? And how it is being used. For example, you would put ads in Google search so that you can drive business to your e-com. Now Shopify has enabled you purchasing in ChatGPT. So the behavior has changed where you might ask ChatGPT, like, I am looking for XYZ, I want to order and order within ChatGPT. So
Hmm.
now where the data is being used, how the data is being used changes drastically. So now you are not looking at making a good ad. Now you are thinking through like when people ask questions, how do I enrich the data so that like AI can surface my product first.
Right. Yeah.
So those things are going to change though. Data itself is going to be there, but how it is being consumed and what data is going to be consumed is going to evolve.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There is no doubt about it, and spot on. Now, Harish, one of the things I'm curious about, um, especially you've have this long experience, and I'm sure like maybe some of the audience would be thinking um like Harish is so this is what we call it, you have a great business acumen. Usually business people, sorry, technical people, they kind of, especially when they start their own companies, or for sometimes they co-found a company with someone, they have this issue. that they are new to business. So as someone who transitioned to have this full vision of the both world, like uh, what mindset I would say like help you to also have this shift for you, and also like what kind of maybe resources or like what kind of things they have to go and learn so they will be able to be comfortable to talk business language, that could that be sales, marketing, GTM, and so on.
Uh, Curiosity,
Hmm.
I guess that's the main thing. And the context is like I was sad because at Mongo, I was not in like a very customer facing role, right? Obviously,
Hmm.
I am involved when things go down. If top one person's database goes down, I am involved. But I'm
Yes.
very technical. Like I have patterns, we do research, we like MongoDB is a technical product.
Right.
And moving to fashion, which is on the exactly the other end. But also even Bloomberg, right? I was in security. So my customers are software developers within Bloomberg. So it's kind of
Right.
like a very different world. Initially, I would say it was a little harder, but ChatGPT has made it so easy. So my customers directly interact with me, and the way I do it is like sometimes I just put like, hey, this is the reason why something works, something doesn't work into ChatGPT, and like, I'm a software engineer. This is a technical aspect of it. Can you kind of like change it up so that I can communicate this information to a totally non-technical fashion creative personality? And ChatGPT will check out some answers. I use that as a baseline on how to communicate to people.
Yeah.
And it helped a lot when it comes to sales, marketing, and stuff. Someone who doesn't know anything about it, who is not very comfortable sitting in a sales call, ChatGPT helped me a lot.
Cool.
The
I believe.
other as
Yeah.
yes,
Please. Yeah.
the
Please.
other aspect of learning the business itself, I was at a pretty comfortable position at MongoDB, right? The company grew, I grew with the company. It's all like nice. What made me leave a stable job for a startup and founder is again the curiosity aspect of it. I was in these like fashion shows. I spoke with fashion people, and when they talked about the challenges they have, it just sparkled that like, hey, it's a data problem. I love how to make use of data. It's something
Yeah.
I feel so passionate about, and I want to do it. That's it. There is no, there's no right or wrong answer. Just like I felt passionate, and knowing your customers is the important thing. Being that sometimes literally just counting things in their back office, being in the meetings with them in the back office, just observing every piece of their operation helps you learn.
Great. Yeah. So I like this. Like there is no right or wrong, right? So um, this is by itself it's a mindset, Harish. Like also to go and explore and try new things, curiosity, which you mentioned also as well. um Absolutely. Now I gotta ask, it's not an odd question, but part of the audience that comes and listen to the podcast are like sometimes ecosystem builders and sometimes they are investors themselves. And this the thing we discussed outside of the podcast, like people sometimes ask me, there's a lot of and we said like AI is mainstream now, right? So we could not skip it, we cannot don't talk about it. So but I want you with all the experience that you have, so imagine someone brings you, tells you a pitch, or maybe like they describe what they are building. So what would be a red flag for you? Like should something like no, there's something not fit here. What that would be?
So when I was pitching, one of the feedback I get from investors is I'm too practical. For me, red flags is different for different people, right? When someone says AA is magical, this is going to take over everything. I'm going to replace entire company with AI with this product. No, that's not happening right now. So being from an engineer, when I hear the pitch, I am more curious around when you pitch, how are you handling things that go wrong? An
Mhm.
example I would take is that I could make an AI that is going to look at your invoice, automate your payment to your vendor, and not have humans involved. And say AI makes a mistake and pays the wrong amount. How are you going to flag it? And how do you even reverse the transaction? That's a pain. So
Right.
have you thought through where to apply AI in your business to make people efficient and where not to? In these cases, it's as simple as like, hey, I will give, rather than users entering the data, I would stage all the data. And once they approve, I will make the payment. And this is going to make someone efficient is a good pitch. If someone says behind the scenes, you don't need an account and the payment will automatically happen, like, no, at least not in foreseeable future because error handling, what happens when things go wrong is scary. That's
Yes.
how I look at things. I'm like, are you thinking about real world implications when things don't work?
Um, this is exactly the way I also tell people, like, we need to, and you mentioned it, by the way, Harish, yourself at the beginning, maybe not directly but in an indirect way. So I need to be able to describe the customer journey rather than just focusing on and you mentioned about the pain is big, like for example they're losing money, they're not aware of this, right? So you need to focus on rather than, as you said, like saying someone tells me, yeah, like I'm replacing 1,000 people with one agent. And by the way, maybe yeah, sometimes in some domains, uh, forget about investors from go to market perspective. If you go and say this, you're gonna create enemies on the spot. So right? Because you're literally telling someone sitting there, "Hey, I'm here bringing something to replace you," and yeah, there will be no need. So you need to tailor the message in a way. Yeah, it depends on the domain, but exactly what you said,
Yes.
right? Harish, as we are almost coming to an end, like final thoughts you want to share with us, and where people can get in touch with you.
LinkedIn, I am always available in LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn ID would be Santa Clara Harish, SC Harish. Uh, File message, just be curious. I think we are at the moment, especially as someone from a technical background, that everyone is in level playing field. No one knows what how AI will be applied in the world. There is no secret to it. There is no one who is smarter than the other person. We are all in level playing field, which is so interesting time to explore new things, come up with new ideas, experiment different stuff. There's going to be thousands of pet.coms. There was also one or two Amazon.com out there from .com bubble. And that's going to be the same. When a new technology comes in, we are all in level playing field. So let's just have fun.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Although, like, I hope, Harish, like people learn from the mistakes of the dot-com bubble. Like this question keeps, I, as you said, I tell people I don't have a crystal ball, but I say, humanity history shows us that we, as humans, we learn from previous mistakes. Yeah, we keep doing mistakes, which is not wrong. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna always make mistakes, but I mean, we will not do the same mistakes. Maybe probably new mistakes. So I'm bullish myself on AI. What you're doing is fantastic at Good Day Software. So because it's also empowering uh, brands, and sometimes these brands maybe are created by entrepreneurs, right? So this would help people to succeed, and anything that help people to succeed, we get excited about it. Now, regarding the links you mentioned, Harish, all they will be available in the show notes. So if people are listening to us, they will be able to find, of course, your LinkedIn profile also as well. And again, I want to thank you a lot. I know how busy it can be. So you took the time to speak to me today. I really appreciate that. And this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. If you just discovered our podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, give me a favor, subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps again and again, thank you for the support. Thank you very much for the loyalty. Thank you for pushing us up to the top 200 charts in the Apple podcast platform across multiple countries. So I really appreciate that, and I'm really really feeling humbled and grateful for my audience. Thank you very much. And as I say always, stay tuned. We're gonna have a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.